What up, AfterBuzzers? Welcome to Talking TED Talks. We are talking Never Split the Difference, and we got Chris Voss in studio. Stay tuned.
Ooh. You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey, welcome back, AfterBuzzers, yet again to another Talking TED Talks. It's your boy DJ Jesse J, live in studio with my beautiful host.
Oh, thank you, love. It's Yasmine Tanris.
Meow.
Another great conversation worth exploring that we have today. I'm so excited about this.
Girl, you recommended this one.
I mean, come on.
I was here.
When we were putting the show together, we were actually really excited about it because it's about negotiating. We all negotiate on a daily basis in so many different parts of our lives.
And we needed to learn how to get better at it.
And we just want to share it with you. So.
And you know we love when when we're able to have the speaker in studio.
So this is very special.
Yasmine hooked it up.
Oh, thank you. Because I met Chris Voss and his friend Brad Lambert, who's also joining us here at the AfterBuzz studio. So let's welcome them. Thank you so much for coming
Thanks
in,
for having
both
us.
of you here.
It's our pleasure.
So
You're a little late night FM DJ.
Ooh, look at that voice.
Welcome. Hey, we could do a whole. I always want to do ASMR on the shows. Everyone who comes in is has an amazing voice, but like you could really get there with it.
There you go.
I think that was one of the not like I felt a little scared when I saw you on stage and you were talking. I was like, okay, this is serious.
I felt like you
better not move from my position right now and just listen.
So you sound like a family member to me. I was like, all right.
The uncle that you always ignore.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
No, that I always get all the wisdom from. That would take me to one of those bars.
There you go, exactly. Right?
Hey, he can take you anywhere. So Chris Voss is a prolific negotiator. You're the CEO of Black Swan, the author of Never Split the Difference, negotiating as if your life depended on it. Can you imagine? And it's one of the national best-selling books, one of the top 7 books out there on negotiating. You used to be an FBI agent for 24 years.
FBI.
And you retired as the lead international kidnapping negotiator.
Yeah, and get you a good deal on a kidnap victim.
Okay, so if I get kidnapped, you know who to call, okay? Or any of us. And Black Swan, and essentially you've been really going out there and teaching people, businesses, on how to better negotiate deals, to save money, to cut better deals, and to have better communication efforts as well.
And get deals faster. That's the biggest thing. You get a good deal faster.
Don't diddle daddle.
Right.
Yeah.
Time is money.
Pick it up.
Touche. And now next to Chris Voss, we have another prolific, amazing negotiator, Brad Lambert. So both of you were there to support Chris at his talk. And essentially you're a producer and happiness creator. You have your own podcast called Producing Happiness. So you bring a special guest in from the entertainment industry and talk about the pursuit of happiness, which I adore.
I love that.
But you're also a talent manager, which a lot of negotiating goes into representing talent, like in the past Robert Downey Jr. and big influencers and very prolific athletes as well. So yeah, it must be a challenge, but a good challenge.
Yeah,
so I can see why both
night.
of you are friends.
We met you on the same night at Soho House, which was great.
Brad's good at what he does, and he's smart, and he learns fast, and he believes in long-term relationships, and he doesn't believe in wasting time. And when he came across the book, I think he started killing it before we ever even started to speak. He's a very smart guy.
So how did the two of you guys link up with each other specifically?
Well, funny enough, I saw Chris's interview with Lewis Howes, where he sat down with him on the School of Greatness podcast.
Oh, I love
And
that podcast.
I was really taken aback by Chris and what he spoke about. It really resonated with me and his approach, and I found him to be fascinating, and I wanted to connect and see how we could work together. And we started going back and forth on Instagram, and then we finally connected, and it was friendship ever since. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, he's a generous guy. I mean, it's the first thing that we do business with a lot of people, my company, and there's a lot of people we don't do business with. And generosity is a prerequisite. And somebody approaches me, which is like, hey, give me a job. That's not a generous approach. Mm-hmm. But if somebody approaches us and said, hey, I already use your stuff, and maybe they take it upon themselves to show us some love on Instagram or someplace else, they walk into the room, they add value to whatever room they walk into, and Brad adds value wherever he goes, and he's an easy guy to do business with.
That's so true.
At that time, Brad, where were you in your life that, hearing Chris talk, it was like, wow, I've already heard him as a third party now. How do I...
Because that takes guts to approach and then knowing how to approach.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it all formed out of respect. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it was about. I respected him, and I'm always trying to surround myself with people I admire and who I respect. And obviously, you can always grow. So I always thought I was pretty good at negotiating and communication. But hearing this guy speak, I mean, it's like always way to get better. And what's better than surrounding yourself with this guy? So it's been amazing, and he's very generous himself. So it's been really cool to kind of get to know him, both personally and professionally. And like I said, grateful to call him a friend.
Well, it's generous of both of you to be here as well.
Thanks for having us.
I'm very grateful.
And then some female walks up to us out of the blue.
and then I took away one of your hot tips and approached you with that takeaway.
Okay, sure you were listening, right? Right off the bat.
But let's not discount that she stood up in front of everybody and went one-on-one with you.
Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So explain it to our teddies that are watching, your experience.
So it was definitely, I felt like I was put on the spot. So what part of it, though, are we talking about when I approached you?
Yeah.
It was at Soho House. He was giving a talk about negotiating as if your life depended on it. Showed us a presentation, talked to us about different methods and approaches and the way that you can word things in order to have an impact on somebody to respond to you and not be against you.
Was this the email thing that you had kind of
Yeah, so I was actually teaching him.
She did.
Spreading the gospel.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, very good.
Yeah, so we should definitely get into that more. And then we had a case scenario, which we're also going to be doing here today because Jesse hasn't experienced it. So it's going to be
Give him a chance to negotiate as if his life depended on it?
Yes.
Oh,
Can we do that?
This is going to be
I'm
fun.
good because I'm ready to learn.
All right.
Okay.
He's got the voice already. He's got the negotiator's voice.
Okay. All right.
Ooh, okay, that's good. Because voice and tone is important.
It's magic. Exactly. It is the secret weapon. So many people overlook it, but it is the secret weapon.
It's power because honestly, like as soon as you stepped on that stage, as soon as the TED Talk started, like I was drawn into you. Like every story that you were saying, like just listening, you're a fascinating person, and
Thanks.
a lot of it does stem from the tone of your voice. And even when you crack a joke, and you know what I mean, there is like the scariness to it, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, he seems like actually like a really cool guy.
Yeah, he's likable. He's approachable.
Scary,
right?
funny.
Yeah.
Right? You're not sure which it is.
Which ties into your job that you were doing as an FBI agent. You know, you were saying a lot of it was, how am I going to get this other person to look at me as a human, but then I have to look at them as a human.
Right.
Now, growing up, how did you get to that point? Like, what was going on in your life that got you to that point of realizing your power?
No, I think I grew up in a family where the attitude was just kind of figured out. I mean, I never anticipated anything like this at all, but the attitude was figured out. And if you got a figure it out attitude, if you're adaptable, it's actually it's a psychological trait you can test for. Some people refer to it as openness. Other people refer to it as coachability. I was sitting on a plane with a member of the coaching staff of the Pittsburgh Pirates probably like 2 years ago. And he was telling me that they test minor league prospects for coachability. Because if you're talented but you're not coachable, you're not going to make it in the majors. Doesn't matter how good you are. You're going to have to be coachable to take the next level. And so they want to waste less time. They need to know who's coachable. And I think I'm coachable.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you opened up your talk with regards to your mom, the way that whatever mom says, it is. So I was curious as to maybe that's why you got into better negotiators.
Dealing with my mom,
you cannot negotiate
she sounded
with your
like
mom.
a
Mom's
tough
tough
woman.
character.
Yeah, a tough cookie.
Everybody knows because of course my favorite joke is I'm from Iowa.
Okay.
So what's the difference between an Iowa mom and a terrorist? You can negotiate with a terrorist. And everyone I've told that joke to, who knows my mom, all say, yeah, especially your mom. So, Mom, they made me say it, Mom. I'm sorry.
And then, how'd you get involved with TED Talks? Like, was it like a lot of speakers come in and they were like, okay, how do I prep what I want to speak about? I mean, was this like already going in like, I know what I'm gonna say?
No, the guys, the TED Talk I did, the TEDx at University of Nevada at Reno.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They're really supportive guys. So and I was daunted by it, and I can talk for 30 minutes to 3 hours, but to boil it down to 12 minutes, I mean that's a challenge.
Yeah.
So they approached me and they said, look, we're going to coach you, we're going to help you. We'll do dry runs with you. We'll give you a lot of insight. I mean, they work really hard so that you can do the best you could do. And when I saw they were going to be that supportive, it's like any endeavor, you don't go by yourself. You got to go with the team. There's a team there, then I was willing to take a run at it.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn from that? Like, because obviously you're a professional in this industry, and then to take, like you just said, to get it down to 12 minutes is a tough thing. Mm-hmm. Did you learn something even further for that to kind of, you're obviously coachable, like you said,
yeah,
that you've applied to your life?
Yeah, well, I first of all, I started listening to a bunch of TED Talks and figuring out what I liked about them. You Google the top 20 and what do you like about them? And what are the commonalities, what works just for that guy. Like one of my favorite TED Talks is by a guy named Sean Acker called Happiness Advantage. It's hysterical. And we quote him all the time because one of the things he points out is you're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. So negotiations, how do you design that into your approach so that you're smarter? And that's why we're always figuring stuff like that out. So I looked at it and, I look at giving talks is almost a version of stand-up.
Yeah.
And so you got to practice a lot, and then you got to get feedback from people, and then at some point in time you got to jump off the cliff.
I'm curious. Okay, don't do that. We're okay here. We're safe.
You're scaring me. Did I tell you that? That's why I'm here, because you actually scared me and Brett. We were both horrified. We were terrified.
So we're scared of each other.
Like, what
okay.
happens if we say no? She's
Show up in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Middle of the night.
I'll kidnap something that's so worthy of yours.
Take away my Huckleberry Hound stuffed doll.
Yes, that's the best
See,
cartoon.
now I know. So Brad, for you, then I'm curious. Now, because since we're talking about how you've been following Chris's journey, and you've seen him talk in so many different ways, and the way that you've been coachable and have picked up your negotiation skills, how do you practice yourself?
Man, I've listened to his audiobook often because it's practice.
And that's Never Split the Difference? Okay.
Yeah, I listen to the audiobook of that. I retain information better listening to it than I do reading, which is interesting, but it makes sense considering I can recite almost every movie I've ever seen.
Wow, that's a skill right there.
Yeah, it's useless quotes. But yeah, I listen to the audiobook a lot. I will just practice in day to day. Basic communication. That's the root of this whole thing is communication and relationships. I think if you can increase your likability, people will want to work with you, So I think it goes back to what Chris mentioned, generating that emotion, the inflection in your voice. Like he said, if you're happy, people tend to want to be around you and want to work with you. So I think everything kind of works itself together. So it's a day in, day out. You say the hardest negotiation is one you don't know you're in. So day to day, whether it's getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks or trying to get a ticket when you get a plane, it's like little things, but it's fun. The one thing I've been trying to work on more of is mirroring, but we can get to that later. But
Get to it later?
Maybe talk to it about
Yeah.
now. Let's get
Sure.
into
Let's
mirroring
Jump in.
now. Yeah.
Jump the cliff.
Let's
Come
do
on.
it. Let's go overboard.
Go overboard?
Yeah.
Oh, you're taking this too far, girl. No,
Sorry.
he just mirrored you.
Let's fly away. Is that better?
Yeah.
Grabbing that flight
Marrying's a
ticket right
simple
now.
one. Marrying is just repeating the last couple of words that somebody just said. It's it's a good automatic pilot skill because every now and then somebody's going to say something that'll catch you completely off guard. I mean, you'll just be stunned, shocked by it. And one of the first mirrors I ever used is in a bank robbery with hostages. I've got a short clip from this actual hostage negotiation with the bank robber on our YouTube channel under the mirror video. But we had we didn't know how many bank robbers we had trapped on the inside. The guy who was the leader was trying to make us believe there was a bunch of guys inside, and that he was not in charge. There were only 2 inside, and he was in charge. He was a brilliant negotiator. And but they had gotten there in his van, and NYPD, FBI, Joint Terrorist Task Force, Joint Bank Robbery Task Force. They isolated all the vehicles within about 6 blocks, which was several hundred. Come up with a van that we don't know where the driver is. So they run the registration. They go to the guy's house. Yeah, this is who he is. He's not here. They brought the witness who knew him to the scene, listened to us talking to him on the phone, and say, yeah, that's the guy. That's who's inside. So my job, they hand the negotiation off to me, and they say, brace this guy with his name first time you get the chance. And so I say, look, we got a van out here. We found all the drivers except one. And he said, well, you chased my driver away. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Thoroughly stunned me, caught me off guard. And I said, we chased your driver away? He said, yeah, when he saw the police, he cut and run. Now, in point of fact, the getaway driver had gotten away. We had no idea that there was a third guy that had gotten away, didn't have a clue. This now turned, and see, here's a guy who's holding every piece of information tightly. So he just gave us information which was going to lead to more evidence against him, which he didn't want to do. So the mirror causes people to blurt stuff out without them realizing they're blurting stuff out. This is the only piece of evidence that he gave us the entire 12 hours we were there.
Oh.
Bank robber. I didn't find out about the getaway driver till that night, and they identified the guy. And then when we got ready to go to court, I saw the case agent who was handling prosecution. He says, yeah, we got no evidence. We got nothing to link the getaway driver to the bank robbery. And I said, no, we got in the middle of the transcript where our primary robber identifies him. He goes, I didn't know that was there. I said, yeah, I'll show you exactly where it is. So it gave us phenomenal evidence of conspiracy, that there were other people, that he was in charge, and it tied the getaway driver to the crime. All as a result of a simple mirror that I said when I was caught off guard, and I didn't know what else to say, so I just mirrored what the guy just said, and then he blurted out a bunch more really useful information. And that happens in all negotiations.
Also buys you some time, too.
Well, that's the other thing, too. That how do you buy yourself time when the other side doesn't realize you're buying yourself time?
Yeah.
How do you slow it down for you, but not for them? And that's one of the things that buys you time. You get your act together in that moment where the other side doesn't have any idea that's what you're doing. That's a good point. Yeah, it buys time.
Then break down to us about, because the title is Never Split the Difference.
Never split the difference.
So never split it.
Right.
What does it mean exactly?
All right, so first off, splitting the difference is usually, first of all, it's either a bad move or a sucker move. There's an old saying, the person who offers to meet you in the middle is usually a poor judge of distance. Now, 90% of the people that give me a hard time about the title of the book, they say, I split the difference all the time. It works for me. And I say, well, in point of fact, what people really do is they ask for 10 times more than they want in the first place. And then they say to you, look, let's be fair about this. That's the F word, fair.
The F word.
Let's be fair. Tell you what, meet you in the middle. Now they're lying to you. They wanted that, you know, they wanted to pay $100, and they said, I'm only going to pay $50, and you want $150. You say, you know, let's be fair. You know, let's meet in the middle. You'll think you got a good deal. They lied to you. They conned you. It was not a split of the difference. They just moved the anchor so far out of the way that it seemed fair. Now you're going to walk away thinking you got a good deal when you got hustled. So 9 times out of 10, it's a hustle. Now the 1 time out of 10, splitting the difference really boils down to, let me take part of your idea. Since I don't know if you're right, we'll take part of my idea since you don't know if I'm right, and we'll put the two of them together, and we'll see what happens. And that always goes bad. And my favorite example of that, Colin Kaepernick, taking a knee. Him taking a knee was actually originally meant to show more respect to the American flag, but nobody knows that. Yeah. He was unhappy for a variety of reasons. He's sitting out the national anthem. It's getting a little bit of attention. He meets with someone from the Special Forces. And, you know, God bless him for taking the meeting and talking to the guy. And the guy, Colin is making his case, you know, I'm unhappy. You know, I believe in the social problems here in the United States, and I feel like a bit of a hypocrite if I don't say anything. You know, I'm abandoning my people. All sorts of legitimate reasons. And the Special Forces guy said, I respect all that. Here's the problem. You know, it's being misinterpreted. And he says, so Special Forces, if we took a knee at somebody's graveside, we'd show more respect. It's a way of showing respect. And Colin Kaepernick, God bless him, was like, you know what? I don't want to disrespect people who've given their lives for this country. So I'm going to change what I'm going to do to show more respect. For all intents and purposes, he splits the difference. Very, very genuinely intention on both sides. Now, neither side of the issue sees it that way today. What happens is both constituencies are unhappy. They don't want the people that want him to stand up for social injustice, and they don't like the symbol. They don't like the idea of him being more respectful. The people that love the symbol still see him as being disrespectful. When it's a classic compromise position that made everybody even matter and ends up being completely misinterpreted, and they completely lost the intention of the compromise in the first place, which is what tends to happen with compromises. And that, you know, that's just one example. Businesses.
So how can you mend a compromise?
Hear the other side out to start with. Never split the difference also means be willing to accept that the other person might be right. You know, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. The person you're talking to may have a better path to your goal. If you're open, if you want them to be open to your path, then the legitimate thing to do is to be open to their path. And then, you know, at least hear them out. So many people are willing to agree if they just heard out. And so it's I don't want to spend my money if you're going to give me my deal if I hear you out. You know, if all you need from me, and so many people are not heard out on a regular basis, that all you're looking for is just validation that you have an opinion, that you matter, and we can get an awful long way with that on any given instance. So I'm gonna do that because that's if it makes you happy, which is what the whole deal was designed to do in the first place. Why wouldn't I do that?
That's so crazy. Like, it's just like mind-blowing because I have to think about everything you've probably been through in your entire life and the people you've encountered. And has there ever been a situation where you've negotiated with somebody, not to even put them in the word terrorist in there, but like somebody and they just needed, like, it was just them, you know, doing something dramatic or whatever, but the way you spoke to them, sat there, listened to them, and empathized with them was all that they genuinely needed, and then they actually gave you respect in that mind afterwards?
Yeah, well, that's what hostage negotiators do day in and day out, which is why, you know, we got a 93% success rate.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a pretty high success rate. But it from business to hostage negotiation, the human dynamics are the same. You know, we got autonomy issues, we got identity issues. We got just before the start of the second Iraq War, the second time we went into Iraq, which I know sounds like 10,000 years ago. certainly a lot has happened since then. This guy named Dwight Watson drives his tractor into the middle of Washington, D.C. Now, this is on the heels of the D.C. sniper incident, where less than a year earlier, the two guys were running around D.C. shooting people and killing them. I'm not sure what the body count was at that point in time, but D.C. is understandably jumpy because this is in just barely in a rearview mirror, and we're getting ready to go to a war in Iraq. So this guy, Dwight Watson, drives his tractor into the middle of Washington, D.C., completely unrelated to that. His family had a tobacco farm. The lawsuits among the states with the tobacco companies, however many years ago that was, they agree to limitations. His family loses their farm. They get crushed in the settlement. They lose everything. They say when the elephants battle, the grass suffers. Well, he was part of the little guy who got smashed. Now, he'd been protesting a couple years in a row, gone to D.C., gone to the National Mall, got a permit to protest, and nobody cared. What's the sympathy for a tobacco grower? Doesn't matter that that's the way you fed your family, and it was a legitimate occupation. So he protests a couple years in a row, nobody cares. He turns around and comes back, drives his John Deere tractor into the middle of the D.C. Mall just before we're going to war in Iraq and says, I have 4 bombs, and I got 4 bombs scattered around D.C., and I want to talk. So the negotiations kick into gear. U.S. Park Police jumps in, the FBI jumps in support of them about 24 hours in, and we start talking to this guy, and he's slowly getting the idea that he can't get out of there, that it's not going to change anything, but now he doesn't know how to get out. So finally he says, well, I was with the 82nd Airborne, and anytime the 82nd Airborne, if we get stranded behind enemy lines, 72 hours we could withdraw honorably. So he's basically given us 3 days. Now we're about a day and a half into this, and what Dwight doesn't know is that there's a green light on him, which means if he makes a wrong move, and the rules of engagement have been very specifically laid out, because we don't know that he doesn't have bombs, and he's got his Jeep close by, and the rule of engagement is if he makes a move on the Jeep, take him out. A green light means sniper's got to eliminate the threat. That's the way we say it, so it sounds politically acceptable, but it blows brains out. And Dwight doesn't know this, and Dwight is prone to fits of anger. So his negotiators were like, all right, Dwight has just agreed to come out in 2 days, but he's a volatile dude, and he might get mad in the meantime, and he might do something stupid to make a point before he comes out and get his brains blown out. And we cannot let that happen. So we got to figure out how to cut 24 hours off the clock, get him out before, and if he's losing sleep over 72 hours, he's going to get crazy, because people get crazy in this instance. So we're talking, we're going back and forth, and finally, one of our negotiators, because work as a team, right? Winnie Miller. Winnie says, we're trying to figure out what to say to him if he's not going to come out. And Winnie has heard hints of deep faith in the things that he said, just hints of it. So she says, tell him tomorrow's the dawn of the 3rd day. Because in the Christian religion, Jesus was crucified on Friday, he was resurrected on Sunday. That's only 48 hours. That ain't 72, that's 48. It's the dawn of the 3rd day. So we get Dwight back on the phone, and the negotiator says, Dwight, how about coming out tomorrow? He's like, no, I'm not coming out tomorrow. And the negotiator says, but Dwight, tomorrow's the dawn of the 3rd day. And there's dead silence. And he goes, I'll come out tomorrow morning.
Wow.
And he comes out. He doesn't get hurt.
Oh my God.
He's a big dude. The SWAT guys are very concerned about how large he is. We get a very specific protocol for him to walk away from that Jeep. The Jeep happens to be in the middle of a reflecting pool that's 4 feet deep, which means he's going to see anybody coming at him. There's no way to take him out of there by force. They can't splash through the water. He's got to walk out gently. He walks out. He surrenders with complete and total respect. He goes to court. The judge is in a tough spot. We can't really let people terrorize the nation's capital. On the other hand, you just kind of this poor, dumb bastard that got caught up in a bad situation. I don't think he did that much time. There was a lot of outrage in the community that we let him block Washington, D.C., shut it down. And the chief of police, D.C. Metro, said, last time I checked, we didn't shoot people for blocking traffic. And then at the end of the day, on the 5-year anniversary, I'm sitting around. I'd already left the bureau, and my phone rings. And, the message here is you'll miss an anniversary. I didn't know it was 5 years to the day that we talked to White House.
Oh, wow.
And his brother's on the phone, and his brother calls me on the phone. I'm like, yeah, how are you? What's going on? And he's just like, just appreciate you saving my brother's life.
Wow.
5 years
that's
later.
getting
5 years
chills,
later.
Yeah.
I can't even, I could sit and listen to you for hours, literally, but we do
All
this thing
these
called
stories as well.
Teddies, and our Teddies are our fans that watch us and request videos and watch things. So we do this Twitter poll, and Yasmine, I know you got some numbers for
We
it.
have. So the first question was, are you a good negotiator? Yes, no question. 70% said yes, 30% said no. Would you believe that?
If they said that about themselves.
Yeah. 70% of them say yes.
People mostly answer that relative to everybody else. You measure yourself by the activity that you see around you. So in Major League Baseball terms, if you will, most people are hitting about 125. But they don't know because everybody else hits 125, and they think they're okay in comparison. The really good negotiators, the best negotiators, the people you wouldn't even define as a negotiator. Like I think one of the top 5 in the world, no question in my mind, Oprah Winfrey. Mm-hmm. You don't think of her as a negotiator, do you?
Nope.
See, those are the great negotiators. Now, if you think about
But you
it,
don't-
Yeah,
exactly right.
exactly.
As soon as you start thinking
So
about
now I'm thinking you're the worst negotiator because that's in your title.
it. I'm horrible. I will tell you, here's how I really do think of myself, though, more, is because more than anything, I'm a negotiation coach. I coach Brad, and he's open to it.
Yes.
Phil Jackson, one of the best coaches in the history of the NBA. When he played, he didn't even start for the team that he was on. Now, he was on a championship team, and he was their 6th man, and he was in the NBA. And he met an awful lot of high bar criteria. But he wasn't the best player in the NBA even when he played. And he's ended up being one of the best. I think I think much more of myself as a great negotiation coach. I run across somebody like Brad, who's got talent, Michael Jordan over here, right? Phil Jackson coaches Michael Jordan to championships. Michael Jordan doesn't win a single championship without Phil Jackson. Neither does Kobe Bryant. Coachable people who got a lot of talent. We bring out the best in them.
It's definitely translated because I've obviously learned a thing or two from you. And then thanks to Brad, I actually negotiated my end of the deal for my current job.
Hey!
And as a local news reporter, yes. So there, it's come around.
Pass it on.
Yes.
Spread the gospel.
Yes.
Pass it on.
Our next question was, what areas in life do you wish you could better negotiate in? And most people, of course, said business, work contracts, salaries. I'm not surprised about that answer.
Yeah.
No.
So, and here's the key to getting a better salary. Negotiate a better job. What do I mean by that? If you focus on how you can deliver for your company, they either will pay you more or you will accumulate enough of a resume that somebody else will. A very good friend of mine, he and I both grew up in the same small town in Iowa. He didn't get an advanced degree, went to a tiny little college. He's the head of an international bank. And every single job he's ever been at, and every single annual review, he's always asked the same question. How can I be guaranteed to be involved in projects that are critical to the strategic future of our company? Mm-hmm. Now that immediately does 2 things. It makes him want to pay him more because he's promised to make everybody's life better. The mere fact that he's asked instead of how can I get paid more, what you say and what they hear. When you say that, what they hear is you want to help me make money. You're we focused, not you focused. So I want to pay you more. I want to keep you around. I like you. I can count on you. The other secondary thing of that is you want to be playing a big game top levels of the company immediately pay attention to you. How do you get ahead? You get ahead because the top people in your company are watching your performance. How do you get the attention of the CEO? You get the attention of the CEO by working on his pet project. He's going to watch you close, and then, of course, this all assumes you're going to deliver. And you don't have to deliver that well. You just have to do pretty good on really important projects, and you're going to get ahead. You're going to end up the head of an international bank. Mm-hmm. So change your negotiations away from how much you paying me to how can I make our life better.
But the root of that is value.
Yeah.
You're not, what can you do for me? It's what can I do for you? Mm-hmm. So how can I be more involved? How can I add even more value than I'm doing right now? So that's
Exactly.
Which is a theme here at AfterBuzz. Kevin and Maria try to instill in every host here is how can, going from here to elsewhere, what can I do for you? Yeah. So it's so funny.
How can I be of service? Yes.
Yeah. Want to have the last one?
Well, our final question was, do you find it easier to negotiate over the phone, email, or in person? And most people would say in person. There was one interesting one that said...
I know, I've definitely put email.
I know. I think I've heard that too. But, I mean, this one was interesting. Justin Blosky said, person with good people, email with tricksters, and phone with strangers. So, depending. That to me
actually
makes sense.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yes.
That confuses me. I'm confused.
So if you, I get it though.
Well, because you're fine in all forms.
Yeah. But there's a different tone for each platform. So it's like in person, I know someone like me, like I want to be a better negotiator because I know can get stumped. I can get in my head, or I show emotion very clearly, and so I know with negotiating, I think in my mind like, okay, if I go in there and then I don't, I undersell myself, which I've done before, and the job looked at me crazy and gave me a raise even after I gave them a low hit, and it was a lesson for me. But in email, I would have been like, well. So I think there's a different tone, and like finding that where I wanted to ask both of you guys is how do you stop that self-doubt voice? Like how is that something that you going into it, it is a game, it's a back and forth, you're playing tennis, and to kind of stop that negative voice that kind of makes you falter in that moment.
I think the root of that is confidence. Mm-hmm. If you're confident in what you're asking for, if you're confident in the product that you're going to be delivering to the other side, then if you're saying, I want X, it's because I truly believe the work that we're doing or the product that we have is worth that. Mm-hmm. So I'm confident in what we're doing. Let's get to the point where it makes sense, so that the self-doubt doesn't exist if you're confident and prepared in what you're talking about. So I think confidence is everything, especially going back to communication. Mm-hmm. If you're confident in what you're talking about, people will feel comfortable with you, right. And that's where everything kind of unravels from there.
Well, and he actually gave you the answer earlier when how do you get confident? You get small stakes practice. He talked before about how do you handle yourself with the person at Starbucks? How do you handle yourself with the Lyft driver? This is small stakes practice. I mean, everybody that's any good practices. Tiger Woods practices. Michael Jordan practiced. They were known for practicing. Steph Curry practices. You get, you hit that big shot in the championship game because you've been doing the no stakes and small stakes practice, and then you're used to it. Then you know stuff's gonna work. That you said to enough people in small stakes, how am I supposed to do that? That it works. And that there's never been a bad outcome. It may have gone a little sideways on you, but it never went bad. Mm-hmm. And you only get that with practice.
I feel like a good place to practice is at the Sunday's farmer's market. Just take a trip to the farmer's market, see what you can get out of it.
It's not a bad thing.
Downtown Chinatown. They're pretty straight. They're pretty tight with that $5. They're like,
Well, is that what you're trying to say? No,
I don't know. I'm just saying every time I got to pay the $5.
Do you think we have time for the case scenario?
I don't think we have time for the case scenario because we got to get to it. Another studio is going to come in. But I do want to see what you guys are up to right now and tell us a little bit about what you guys are working on and where everyone can kind of keep in contact and find you.
All right, you mind if I jump in here?
Exciting upcoming projects and anything.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff going on. The gateway to it all really is we put out a free newsletter. It's a good price, free. It comes out once a week, and it's got a really short, one actionable article in it. And it's not an encyclopedia. You don't knock yourself out trying to read it. And then it's a gateway to everything we do. We got training events going on across the country. There's information about that. We got a lot of free content. We've got valuable content, but it's all through the newsletter. And the newsletter is a text-to-sign-up function. Send the text FBI Empathy, all one word. Don't put a space between FBI and empathy. Send it to the number 22828, and that's 22828. You get a message back. Sign up for the newsletter. It's a simple read. It's a gateway to everything we have.
And where can everyone follow you specifically?
I'm trying to do this right now.
I'm on Instagram. I'm the FBI Negotiator. And we got a YouTube channel too. So yeah, you Google YouTube, the Black Swan Group, or Chris Voss, and you'll come up with our YouTube stuff. And we got a lot of stuff out there too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And what about you, Brad?
Well, off of what he just said, you asked me earlier how I get better in practice. The newsletter is money every single time. It's a quick read, valuable information, and it's not too time consuming either. So definitely invest in that for sure. But me, I'm producing, I'm managing. You can find me on Instagram at Brad R. Lambert, and you can follow all my adventures on there.
And again, the podcast?
Yeah, my show's called Producing Happiness, and this guy will be on shortly. So looking forward to that.
He's got a great show. It's awesome stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the way I handle myself is I pursue my passions, I pursue happiness, and I try to add value in whatever situation I'm in. So I think if more people focused on their happiness instead of money or materialistic things, I think the world would be a better place. So in doing that, because if you're not happy in your personal life with your relationships, your friendships, your confidence, you're not going to be successful, right? And if you're not happy in your career, you certainly aren't going to be successful financially, long term. So, I think, happiness, it needs to be at the forefront of conversations now. Depression, confidence are all issues today. And,
paying attention to mental health.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had ongoing themes about that in our Talking TED Talks.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are fun.
Wonderful.
You guys are awesome.
You're surprisingly fun.
Hey, I'm scared. You avoided the one-on-one.
No, I'm down to do it, but honestly, we've gone 10 minutes over, and I know that they're freaking out right now. I'm down to do it, but we really
Next
got
time.
So insightful. Is it somewhere online? Can it be viewed online somewhere? A case scenario like that?
We try to.
See,
some of it's there.
special.
Some of it's on. There is one. We finally put one instance on the YouTube channel. It's
Okay.
up on there.
Okay.
It's intense.
Well, I was put on the spotlight in the middle of the room.
She did phenomenally.
First question, and then I failed. I was like, oh, God, Anyways,
Where can everyone follow you?
you can follow me at Yasmine Tanres. And what about you, Jesse?
Boom. You guys can hit me up at DJ Jesse J. If you guys have a TED Talk that you want us to check out, write it down in the comments down below. And also hit us up at Talking TED Talks across all social media platforms and AfterBuzz TV. Till next week, same time, same place.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.